Good afternoon and a warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for spending time today with us, the AD Solutions team here at Manage Engine. I'm Tom Jose, product expert, and I work in the marketing section of the Manage Engine team. And today's webinar is going to be focused on the topic Active Directory based single sign-on for cloud applications. Now I hope my voice is audible and the display is well and clear. If not, please let us know in the chat provided. Nowadays, with cloud technology taking the IT world by storm, most organizations use different cloud applications for various tasks. Now, these cloud applications may have different set of password rules or complexities, which ends up forcing your users to have different passwords for these applications. So this can decrease productivity as users will need to type in their passwords each time they access these different applications, and this can be time taking as well as tough to keep tabs on. And that's exactly where single sign-on comes into play. It is the ability to use one account across multiple connected platforms and has been a holy grail for IT administrators for many years now. So imagine I log into one of my Google accounts like this, and then if I head over to some other Google account like Google Plus, you can see that I'm automatically logged in. Similarly, the same applies for things like YouTube, and here as well I'm logged in. So this is what the single sign-on capability offers us. Now let's take it up a notch. So most cloud applications out there like Google, which I just showed you, or Zoho perhaps, they tend to provide the single sign-on capability for its own suite and provides the APIs for third parties as well. Well, what if this particular third party was the Active Directory itself? Yes, what I'm trying to say is what if I'm able to log into my computer account and I can directly access the apps like Google, Zoho, etc. without even trying to type the password. So this sounds fascinating, right? Well, even more is the implementation. Now with ADSelfService Plus, we provide you just that. It uses the third-party SSO configuration by the individual cloud application and links it with the Active Directory login. So as for today's webinar, the agenda is basically I'll be showing you what are the Active Directory based single sign-on for cloud applications, how to deal with multiple passwords and increasing application count in organizations, providing users one-click access to cloud applications without having to manually enter credentials every time, how to use the Active Directory as the authentication source for logging into cloud applications, and lastly, how to control the single sign-on capability for each app based on the OUs and groups in Active Directory. So let me head back to our product, that is ADSelfService Plus. So for those of you who are new to this ADSelfService Plus, let me just say that it is basically a secure web-based end-user password reset management program. Now this software helps domain users to perform self-service password reset, self-service account unlock, and employee self-update of personal details like telephone numbers, etc. in the Windows Active Directory. And in addition to password resets or unlock accounts, it also provides the SSO for cloud applications, which, like I said earlier, when configured, end users can use the AD authentication to log in, or they can log in via the ADSelfService Plus domain user page. So let's get started, right? So let me just close the other tabs over here and log in as the administrator. So the first major step in starting this product is making sure you've added a domain. So you can see that I already configured a domain, and that's called the SSP workshop. And if you would like to add more domains or edit the existing one, you can do it from the domain settings. Like adding a new domain, you just have to mention the domain name followed by the domain controller and the credentials for it. So that is all about the domain settings. Now let's head over to the single sign-on cloud applications. So that can be found in the configuration tab. where on the left side under self-service, we have an option called password synchronizer. So ADSelfService Plus offers not only single sign-on for cloud application, it also offers password synchronizer, where if you configure any of these apps, then the password change you do to the end users will be reflected to the linked accounts as well. And if you want to see what all we offer in single sign-on, you can just go to the drop-down and click on single sign-on apps. And here you can see that we offer Google Apps, Salesforce, Zoho, and Zendesk for the single sign-on capability. So first things first, I'm going to configure the Google account. So I'll just select the module, that is the single sign-on module, and given my domain name, that is vbstesting.com.uv.com, and I've clicked Save. Well, that's not all, right? I need to go ahead and configure in the Google side as well. So I'll log out from my user, that's Tom Joes, and log in as the administrator. Let me just type his password. And once logged in, I will be going to the, just a second, let me just go to admin.google.com. So from the Google side, I'll have to configure the single sign-on. And just a minute, taking a little time. So here, once you enter the admin console, there will be an option called the security. That is this. So on clicking that, you can just go down and you can see an option called setup single sign-on. So here is where we're going to set up single sign-on, and what we are going to do is link it with the ADSelfService Plus. So I'm going to take this option that says set up SSO with third-party identity provider. And now you might be wondering what is usually the values over here. So in order to help you out, in the same place where you had configured the Google Apps, here on the right side, there's something called download SSO certificate, and you can just copy the login URL, logout URL, and the error or help URL as well, and paste it here. So I'll just continue doing it for all of them. So that is a sign-in page and sign-out page. Next is the certificate. So we need a verification certificate, and this as well can be downloaded from here. Just click on download SSO certificate and upload it here. So I'll just choose that. And then click on upload. So that has been done, and I've successfully configured the Google Apps SSO in both Google's end as well as in ADSelfService Plus. So let's see if it works, shall we? So I'm going to the applications tab over here. And notice that I have this option that is Tom Joes at VDS testing, and that is Google Apps. So with this, I have been redirected to my Google accounts at google.com with my name. And if I click on next, I will be single sign on to my Google Apps. And this is how the single sign on for cloud applications work. And this worked because I had configured the single sign-on capability for Google Apps within ADSelfService Plus and in Google Apps side as well. So what it did right now is basically it fetched my SAM account name, that is the user Tom Joes, from the AD or from my individual user's attribute, and it searched for a domain name, that is the vdstesting.com.uv.com, with which I configured the Google Apps. So it's searched for Tom Joes at vdstesting.com.uv.com, and then with my AD credentials, it's signed on to the Google Apps. So that's how it works. So now I can do other things as well, like for instance, right now I'm signed in to Tom Joe's. So I can do something like I can just directly go to accounts.google.com and given my username, that is Tom Joe's at vdstesting.com/uv.com, and click on next. Now since I was signed out, I am asked my AD credentials. Noted, my AD credentials and not my Google Apps credentials. So if I type in my AD credentials like this, Tom Joe's, and the password, you can see that I'm successfully logged in to my Google Apps account as well. So isn't that a genius thing, right? So what basically you have to do is configure Google Apps for within ADSelfService Plus. So right now I showed you how to configure the single sign-on app for cloud applications, and I showed it to you via ADSelfService Plus. So one major thing which this can solve is basically dealing with multiple passwords and increasing application count in organizations. So if you can configure things like Google Apps or Zoho for your AD account, then all you need to do, like in this scenario, is use your AD credentials, that is just one set of credentials, to log in to each of the following apps. So I just showed you right now that once you log in as into ADSelfService Plus as a domain user, you can just click on that option within the applications tab, like here as shown, and you'll directly enter the individual cloud application without having to enter credentials every time. So, and I also showed you how you can use Active Directory as the authentication source for logging in to cloud applications. So you notice that when I was signed out from ADSelfService Plus, and when I tried accessing the Google Apps out from another browser, I was asked for my AD credentials and not for my Google Apps credentials. So with this method, you will still be remembering only your AD credentials and nothing else. So like I told you earlier, this solves many problems like trying to remember multiple passwords for multiple accounts. And it does not even require for you to log in, right? You just have to be logged into ADSelfService Plus, click on the individual apps from that portal, and you'll be redirected to the individual cloud applications without sweat. So next, what I'm going to show you is how to control the SSO for each app based on OUs and groups in Active Directory. So imagine now I have something. Let me just sign out from this and log in to ADSelfService Plus as the administrator. So imagine I have an organization, okay, and my admin team has linked accounts in Google Apps. My finance team has linked accounts in Zoho. So in this scenario, I would need to configure a policy which allows the admins to only access the Google Apps via single sign-on and the finance team to use Zoho via single sign-on. Because none of them have accounts in the other application, I should make sure they don't have that portal or application allowed for them as well. So we have something called the policy configuration. So here you can see I've already added a policy that's called the sysadmin. And if I just click on select OUs and groups, you can see in the selected objects count, I have added the OU admin and the OU domain admins and administrator. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new policy. That's going to be the finance. And let me just give it all options like reset password, unlock account, self-update and change password. And now I'll select an OU. So that'll be within my Tom OU. I have the finance OU. I'll click on OK and click on save. So with that, I have currently two policies. One is the sysadmin policy, which is having all the users from the domain administrators and the sysadmin OU. And then I have the finance policy, which basically have all the users from the finance overview. Now I'll head over to the password synchronizer, and I'll go to Google Apps, click on edit, and you can see it's selected for all policies, right? So I'm going to deselect all and just click sysadmin alone, and click on update. So now only the users from the sysadmin policy will be able to use Google Apps for single sign-on. Now let me just head back and go to Zoho and click on and unselect the password synchronizer and only select this single sign-on. Now we are asked two things. One is the SAML redirect URL and the other one is the domain name. So first let me head over to zoho.com and I will log in as the admin to my organization's account. So I'm going to log in right now as the user admin at crick11.com. So crick11.com is the domain and administrator is basically the one who has administrative privileges. And let me just type his password. And the next step would be like how I did for Google Apps. I'll be heading over to the control panel within Zoho. And here as well, there will be something called the SAML authentication. So now you might be, if you were wondering earlier what should be the values here, the SAML redirect URL is basically this URL over here. So I'll just copy that and paste it here. And the next one is the domain name, and that is crick11.com, right? So and now before I proceed again, we need to deselect the fact that it's for all policies and select it for one particular policy, and that's a finance. So with this, I am basically configuring that separation between the admins and finance, where the admin has linked accounts in Google Apps and the finance team has linked accounts in the Zoho cloud application. So now another thing is basically just like we did for Google Apps, we have to copy these URLs and paste it here. So I'll just do it for the others as well. And then for the next part, that is the public key. So this key again can be retrieved from this SSO certificate I had downloaded earlier. So I'll just search for that file, and that is this. And now since everything is set, I'll just click on OK. And I have successfully configured the Zoho SSO within Zoho site. And now to configure it in ADSelfService Plus, I believe I've given all the right details here. And now I'll click on save. And that is also done, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign out. So from all the accounts of Zoho, and I'm going to sign out from here as well. And log in as the user Eddie, who works in the finance team. So I'll just type his password. So remember I told you earlier that standard procedure of ADSelfService Plus is that you need to be enrolled into ADSelfService Plus before going ahead and trying out its features. So when you log in for the first time into ADSelfService Plus, it'll have this pop-up, which if you click here, you will be redirected to the enrollment tab, and you need to choose two security questions. So I'll be choosing two questions. That is, first one is, what is your mother's maiden name? Let me just type that answer. And the second one is the country you always jumped on vacationing in. I'll type that answer as well and click on enroll. Now since that is done, I can head over to the applications tab and notice that for the user Tom Joes, he was seeing the Google Apps the Google application over here, and instead for Eddie it's the Zoho. So if I click here, I will be redirected to my account, that is the user Eddie's account. So you can see just by clicking on that link, I was logged into the user ID. And similarly, just like I showed you for Google Apps, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign out from the ADSelfService Plus and now try to access mail.zoho and given the user Eddie. So that's Eddie at crick11.com, and in the password time, you might be wondering, the entire point of single sign-on is to avoid typing credentials, but right here in Zoho page, you're being asked credentials, right? But don't worry, this is just standard procedure where they ask you a password, because if I try clicking on sign in, it will not allow me to move forward without typing in any password. So I'm going to type a random password just to get through this page, and you can see it's as random as possible. And click on sign on. And notice I have been redirected to the AD authentication page provided by ADSelfService Plus. So here I just have to type in the user ID and his password. Note it, it's a password for his his AD account. So now if I just click login, I am redirected to my Zoho account and I've been successfully logged in as a user ID. So this is how the policy can be configured individually or as an OU for different users, right? So right now we learned that for the finance team, I've configured the Zoho sign-on, single sign-on, and for the sysadmin account, I have configured the Google Apps. So if in order to make things more clear, let's just log in as the user Tom Joes this time and see what is he seeing, right, in the applications tab, whether is he having any access to the Zoho application. So I'll just go to applications and you can see he's only seeing Google Apps, and that's exactly how we had configured the policies. So on recap, let's just do this. So starting with, I showed you how Active Directory based single sign-on for cloud applications work. And I told you that single sign-on is basically the holy grail to deal with multiple passwords and increasing application count in organizations. Then I showed you how once you use ADSelfService Plus for configuring single sign-on for cloud applications, you can use one-click access to the cloud applications without having to manually enter the credentials every time. So you notice that when I logged into ADSelfService Plus as the domain user, when I went to the applications tab, I just had to click on either Zoho or Google to be redirected to the individual cloud application and will be directly signed in. Then I showed you how to use Active Directory as the authentication source for logging into cloud applications. So notice that when even if I was not logged into ADSelfService Plus, if I directly access the Google Apps or the Zoho account from their individual pages, then I will still be redirected to the ADSelfService Plus portal for logging in, and I will be using it only one set of credentials, and that is the ADSelfService Plus or the Active Directory accounts credentials. Don't worry, both are the same as we use AD credentials to log into ADSelfService Plus as well. Finally, I showed you how we can control the SSO for each app based on the OUs and groups in Active Directory. So note, you remember that I had created two policies. One is sysadmin and one is a finance policy. Both had users from different OUs and both were given different cloud applications as well. Like for admin, it was Google Apps, and for finance team, it is Zoho. And we saw how that all worked out as a perfect, well-laid plan in the organization. Now, one extra thing I'm going to show you is basically, I told you that how the single sign-on retrieves the individual user from the cloud application. So we have something called the account linking. So if I give the Google Apps, you can see that the auto account linking is enabled by default, and it will be choosing the SAM account name. So that's why when I gave the user Tom Joes in ADSelfService Plus, it automatically fetched the SAM account name of that user, that is Tom Joes, and linked it with the domain name I had set for Google Apps, that is bdstesting.com/uv.com. So basically, ADSelfService Plus formulated the ID that is tomjoes@bdstesting.com/uv.com. Using that and using the single sign-on capabilities of Google Apps, it used that account and single signed on to that particular app, that is Google Apps, and that's how it works. Now you might be wondering why I'm talking about this if Samicon name is the only attribute. Well, it's not. If you click on this drop down, you can see that there are many other attributes. So imagine if it was not Samicon name and if it was display name that is linked with your Google Apps account, you can choose that as well. And notice that whatever attribute you choose, the AD account format will be in this flow, that is display name at bdstesting.com/uv.com. So that is how the account linking works, and that's all you need to know about the single sign-on application. Now, this, as you can see, can save time, increase productivity, and more of all, can relieve the end users to remember the different passwords which they use for different cloud applications. So you can see that right now we support only for these applications, that is Google Apps, Salesforce, Zoho, and Zendesk, but it's up to you to give us suggestions for which other cloud applications we can provide support for, which we will be working on accordingly. Also, you can head over to manageengine.com/products/self-service-password, and in this site you can just directly download our ADSelfService Plus product, which will give you 30 days free trial, and you can test how, and accordingly, if at all 30 days is not enough for you, be sure to contact our support team and they will definitely give you an extended license just for trial and you can use it. So with this, we have come to the end of today's webinar, and I hope this webinar was useful to all of you. And I thank each and everyone for being such a wonderful audience and being patient with us. Now, any questions regarding the session can be put in the chat box, to which we will reply immediately, or else if there isn't enough time, we will take it personally offline with you. Also, please take a minute or two to fill up the feedback form mailed to you after the session to let us know your thoughts on today's workshop and any room for improvement. Now, the video of this workshop will be available online and also shared with you personally on request to the chat or feedback form. So if at all you need this video for following up or for individual self-learning, then please let us know through the chat or feedback form and we shall send the video to you. Now, any queries you have regarding the product, please feel free to send us a mail to support@adselfserviceplus.com and we shall assist you from there. I repeat, support@adselfserviceplus.com. So thank you once again and a good day to all.